Hey, it's Marthea of Hits the MSW Coach, and I'm going live to do a live career coaching session with someone who volunteered to be coached by me tonight. I sent out an all call to my email newsletter list and I got a volunteer. So I'm so excited because I don't know what we're going to be talking about tonight, what the specific issue is that she has, but I'm ready to coach her and provide her with the insights that she needs to at least get one quick win regarding her macro social work career. So, hey Diana, how you doing today?
Well, how are you doing this evening?
I'm wonderful. So I'm so glad that you decided to volunteer to be coached by me live. This is always fun for me to do. So if you would introduce yourself to the people watching the replay back, just tell them a little bit about who you are, what type of social work you do. You don't have to share with us where you work, but give us a little insight of like what population issues have you touched in your work history.
Yes, well, hi, my name is Diana. I have a bachelor's degree in social work. I have worked in more of micro settings. So I worked in child welfare for about a year. I've worked child welfare and just currently working at a food bank and just helping those, empowering those who are facing barriers to the resources that are out there, these social services, the community resources, to help them to get to where they're needing to be and helping on more programmatic sides of all aspects at the work that I do.
Mm, I love that. I love that. So tell me, what's going on in your career? What's the biggest issue you're having currently? Let's get to coaching and let me see how much I can help you with what's going on.
Yes, so I'm in a micro role, doing one-on-one, helping, providing benefit services and navigation and advocacy. And I want to be able to make that more macro of more actionable steps of what does that look like to make actionable change and lasting impact for those facing those barriers that I've mentioned on more of a bigger scale so we can be able to change the policies, the programs that create those um, systematic changes for those who are in a marginalized communities. So just various. I feel like I've always gravitated towards the homeless, unhoused population, but I'm open to just various populations of those who are facing those barriers systematically.
Okay, so have you been applying to macro jobs? What's the biggest issue you're coming up with? Are you applying for jobs and not getting hits for interviews? Are you interviewing and not getting job offers? Or is it something before that step, as far as are you having trouble finding jobs?
I've have been thinking about jobs and I think finding the time first in my schedule to actually do that. But I think going forth with the resume, of course, having the resume cover letter, having that set up, taking the time to sit down and to work on that. Maybe just procrastination or just fear of, you know, applying for those type of jobs that I may not have done before. And I think, of course, looking for what those jobs are um, and what that looks like for me to get a job that I know that I will be able to use my skill set that I have and be passionate and be fulfilled by that.
Okay. So who would you say your population is?
Um, I think it's always been the unhoused homeless population has been what I've always gravitated towards and been wanting to because they face a lot of barriers in all aspects.
So you say gravitate towards, is that because you are genuinely interested in it, or is it because that's where some of your work history lies?
I believe both. My work history does lies in the unhoused population, and I have been passionate about helping those Yeah, the unhoused population as well. So I believe both is.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is take you well, let me back up. And I'm just asking this so I can get an understanding of how much clarity you have, because usually when people find me, they need clarity work, right? So, is there a specific aspect of homelessness, houselessness that you're interested in? For example, because I love to give a good example. Maybe you're interested in ensuring that single mothers have housing specifically through home ownership. Maybe you're interested in ensuring that houseless veterans are able to get housing, safe supportive housing that they can afford. I have a current coaching client right now, Andrea. She's interested in doing work around oh credit, like ensuring that future homeowners from under-resourced populations have access to credit to be able to finance their homes. And it's another term she recently learned that I cannot remember right now. But what aspect of houselessness are you interested in?
I think that's probably is something that I haven't deeply thought about. I've just thought about it in more in a broad sense of the unhoused population of general of the various different people that are unhoused. I haven't thought about anything deeply beyond that of what specific types of population within the unhoused.
Okay, no problem. So let me take you through my three P's framework, and I'm just sending the email to my email list. I see some people are on Instagram, watching, and then I put a message for them to come on over to YouTube. If you're watching and you're tuning in, because sometimes Instagram doesn't show me who's in real time, join us on YouTube. I'm coaching Diana, a fellow social worker who's interested in doing macro level work. And so let me take you through my three P's framework real quick and fast. Now, I want to give the disclaimer that clarity, that process in and of its own, takes about 30 to 45 days. So I'm going to go through this with you in like literally 5 minutes. So this is just to give you an understanding that it sounds like what you need a lot of is clarity and you're not by yourself. Everyone does.
Mhm.
So let's get to it. So my three P's framework is based off of the fact that when I made my own pivot to macro social work, I was very clear that I wanted to build in like opportunities for me to do work that I really was interested in. Okay. So the first P is focused on your passions. When I say passion, I'm not talking about like passion in the sense of that we need to take your most closely held passion and make it your job. But my approach is out of the 10 plus that you have, we can borrow at least one of them to strategically infuse it into your career to build you moments of joy to increase your career satisfaction. So when you are not at work, what do you like to do in your free time?
That's something I've been recently getting into. I haven't really had any, I haven't had free time, but filling that up with other things. I like outdoor activities. Some of these are just kind of what I am getting into and starting to learn more about myself. Recently been baking, just learning just new recipes. Um, yeah, hanging out with friends. Yeah, I think that's traveling.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think that's kind of the most biggest things that I've been getting into or learning or wanting to do more of.
Okay. So I'm going to park it like that and go to the second P. The second P is purpose. So purpose is not the purpose to life, and this is for people listening. We're not getting that deep. This is the purpose to your work, like the why behind your work. Why do you want to do it's more of like why you want to do macro level work. That's the biggest focus of it. But for the sake of this conversation today, we're going to just focus on like how you want to do your work. Right. So specifically, how do you want your day-to-day duties to look like? For example, there are a lot of social workers who are really interested in like the arts. However, they're in a job each day where they are doing where they're sitting in a cubicle pushing papers and checking boxes, and they are in what I call misalignment because they're not having any opportunity to really do things that spark joy in them.
Mhm.
So it's all about how you want your day-to-day work to look. And so how I get people to identify that, because if I ask you right now, what ideally, what type of job would you want? You would not be able to tell me. So, however, social workers are always able to tell me what they don't like to do, right? And then we start and we go from that direction. So thinking about all of the jobs that you've ever had in your whole life, be it paid, unpaid, internship, practicum, be it one time when you were in high school and you volunteered at the local hospital as a candy striper. What didn't you like doing in your work?
I one job, I was going to people home visits. That's something I don't want to do of traveling to homes, or I know there's people travel to hospitals and meet different clients. Not the traveling. Um, I think the more of the micro we mentioned of just a one on one. I do enjoy like seeing how I can help people. I think less of that is something that I would like to do or not do.
Okay. Give me two more things that you have not liked, that you didn't like doing in past work.
Mm. Um, Trying to think of what else. Um, um, Being working with children,
Okay.
being with children. Um,
I'll take those. So I kind of broke up your first one into two. I
okay.
home visits, direct client work,
Yep.
working with children. Okay. So now think about all of the work that you've ever done in the past. What was one thing that you liked to do? One aspect of a work. It could have been one time when you did something literally like 5 minutes and you're like, I really enjoyed that. I wish I could do more of that. What was that?
Um, More like kind of in charge of like a project, more kind of behind the scenes and more operational, um, handling a project or a team.
Mhm. What was the project?
Um, Kind of working. Well, this kind of was more a little bit kind of ish operational, but project, but just helping a program that I was on for seniors that program that aid provided more supplemental food. So we provided them to come in to go to the market to get food once a month. So helping kind of scheduling visits, just kind of, I don't know, kind of being, I don't know how to explain it, but kind of being in charge of something of like some people can like, go to you and ask for help about, and helping schedule that visits and kind of knowing what that is, if that makes sense.
It does.
I like have it in my head.
Did you enjoy, it sounds like you enjoy more of the leadership program management piece of it, but not necessarily, I like the issue of food insecurity and working on that. You enjoy the people coming to you and you being the head person on this project.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. The signal is out a little. So
Okay,
yes.
no problem. Okay. So in that role, were you responsible for designing the program?
No, I wasn't responsible. It was already set up. I was just kind of helping for a little time to help, as I mentioned, schedule the visits, kind of making sure things were set and how they were going to, I guess, just kind of just scheduling their visits to come in person, to come and getting food and setting that up. Um,
So
and
it was a
this
lot
kind
of,
of other project kind of on of, I like kind of, like, sorry, it's signals cut. What's happening? Oh, the signal was cutting out. I didn't know if you what you were saying.
no, it's okay. So you enjoyed a lot of the program management piece of it. Okay. This is good. So the second question, third piece
Yes.
is population and issue. So is there a specific, you said the houseless population? Well, you said the issue of housing is what you're interested in. But there a certain population that you are really passionate about than others? And there's three questions that I'm going to give you, three questions that you can use to help figure that out. So the first question is, maybe it's something that okay, let me back up. What is the thing that people just randomly come up to you and talk to you about? Like you can literally be in the grocery store on aisle 9 buying some kale in the fruit in the produce section, and someone comes up to you and just randomly starts talking to you about a thing. And next thing you know, you're there for an hour and you're like, how, and once the conversation is over, you're like, how did they know I like to talk about that? That's the first question. You don't have to answer right now. Just think about it because it could be one of the three. The second thing you could think to help you figure out your population issue is there something that you personally experienced in your life, be it as a younger person, be it around the age you are now, where you're like, I want to make certain that no one else goes through that thing. The third question is, maybe it's something that you know of, maybe it's something that a person you know of or don't know of directly went through. And you always were like, someone needs to do something about that. It could also be just as a result of your work in the past where you're like, this issue here, someone needs to fix it and fix it fast. And I have ideas around it. So out of those three guiding prompts, did you think of anything? So for example, I love a good example. Like I said earlier, for me, when I'm in the back years ago, and it still happens now, I could randomly be at a girls' day event with a bunch of strangers, and someone will come up to me and start talking to me about their career randomly. I don't know this person, haven't met them a day in my life. And I started to notice that was the theme, that people would come start talking to me about jobs, start talking to me about their education goals. So that's how I knew that was my theme. In my personal life, I had a good childhood friend who experienced something. I was like, one day I'm gonna do something around that issue, right? I didn't decide to do it in my career, but it's still on my list to address it in my own way. And then when it comes to the third one, like maybe it happened, maybe you saw it in your work or something like that. The issues that I address on a macro level, I saw that in my day-to-day work as a case manager. Those are just some examples.
Yeah, I think the second question that you asked about something that happened in my childhood, um, I think relating to the in-house homeless population, I've also experienced something similar as they are. I think that is why I guess gravitating towards that. I have gravitated towards that population.
Okay. So when it comes to the unhoused population, right? That is the population. Is there a specific aspect of the work, the issue that you're interested in? So, and I don't want to get too deep into your business, but like you said, you experienced it. Was that in childhood? Was that as an adult? Was it a result of, for me, my lens is always on workforce development, good quality, good paying jobs. Is that because someone needed a good job to be able to pay for housing because all of that intersects? What was the underlying issue that led to the being unhoused? Maybe it was because the rent was too high. I don't know.
Yeah, experience it as a child. Yeah, experience it, as a child in my childhood. Um, that's why it, came up for me of
Okay.
going towards, the house population.
Okay. Yeah, so the internet is cutting up and it was doing so good before we got online. But it's okay. We still gonna work our way through it. Okay, so all right, this is good. So let's go up to passion. Let's go back to the first P. You
I
said
know.
it's okay. It's okay. You said that you enjoy being outdoors, you love baking, traveling, and hanging with friends. When you do that, why are you doing those activities? Is it a part of like your self-care? Is it how you meet new people? Is it because you like to go out and create new cultural experiences? What is the why behind your activities that you do in your free time?
Um, I think most of them, just stems from, or some of it are starting to, do more self-care, getting into that of enjoying my time. I've always like like and being able to be outside. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't know if it's specific with the outdoors, but I definitely have just like being outdoors, enjoying outdoor activities. Spend time with people, enjoy time with people, and traveling. I've traveled the last couple of years, just to different places, and that just um, enjoying just spending time, different kind of retreats. So just always enjoy just spending time with people and meeting new people, and enjoying new places that I've never been before. Able to have those new experiences that I haven't. In baking, I'm like not vegan, but like been just doing that more gluten free or vegan dishes. So just more healthy kind of eating of food, and also baking, and seeing the more creative side of that. You can eat, at least for me, what I see is that I can eat cookies, but I don't have to eat maybe all of the, at least like unhealthy wise. I can make it more healthy and more good, and that feel good for me for what I feel for my, my own personal dietary restrictions, to eat in that way. So I just feel joy, yeah, I guess, in that I can create something that makes me feel good, and I enjoy to eat as well, and be able to share that with people.
Okay. So, for the sake of this conversation today, because the clarity process gets way deeper again, like for those who are tuning in and watching the replay, clarity, the process in and of itself inside of my program, the micro to macro career accelerator, takes 30 to 45 days. But for the sake of this conversation, what I'm going to say is your interest in traveling and it's attending retreats and having the deeper desire to want to meet new people, how you can creatively like infuse that into your work is by getting a job that has a traveling component to it. That's the most simplistic way. Now, let's say like you really, really were interested in baking and you were doing baking just because you enjoy baking, not necessarily for it as a part of your self-care routine, then you should go find a job that infuses baking in some type of way into their work. So as an example, there's a national organization that I know about. It's not your, well, it is your population. There's a national organization that does work around employing people with bakery jobs by training them as pastry chefs. And these are people who some of them are unhoused, right? So that's a creative way for you to blend in your thing. You could get a
Mhm.
job with that organization that's you're not baking, you're not the one baking, you're not the one teaching them, but you are potentially running the program, the national initiative of training people to do this level of work, right? So when I talk about passion, it's not we're going to look for a job that says bakery program director. We're looking for strategic ways to infuse your passions. But on the basic level, traveling is a way for you to infuse that because a lot of macro, not a lot, depends on the ones you go for. Some macro jobs do have a traveling component to it. And I always tell people that it's also important to know what your percentage of travel that you're willing to do is, because then you shouldn't be going for jobs that have a 50% traveling requirement if you only want to do about 20 to 30%. So that's one way to infuse your passion. Um, okay, so I'm going to also say for purpose, your second P, that you are looking for some type of programmatic oversight related work. On a macro level, they don't call them programs. That's more on micro organizations and like your local nonprofit social service agencies. On a national level, they call them initiatives, right? So this is for everyone listening. And the role as a macro social worker is to no longer be the doer. You are now the creator. So on the macro level, you're creating the thing, the mandate, the initiative, again, that's what they call it, that says we want this type of work to be done in the cities across the country. By the time it trickles down to the micro level where you are, where case managers are, where I used to be, it then they then on the micro level are responsible for creating the way they're going to do the work. And how that goes like shapes up is that it becomes a program. But on the national level, it's just a mandate. It's just a mandate, a requirement, right? It may be the result of a policy, a new law. It may be a result of some funding that's being given out across the country, but it's an initiative. And so instead of managing the day-to-day service delivery like you do in a case management job, you're managing the rollout of the thing. You're managing the oversight of, did people get their money? Are they doing what we've stipulated in the way that they feel best for the people that they're serving? So, but for the sake of this conversation, we can call it program management because the title largely depends on the organization that you target. And there are a ton of different macro organization types. I break them down in my program, but it's too many to get into today. But just know that it's called an initiative. And we're going to say that your population is the unhoused population. I would say that you still need to do a lot of clarity work on the specific issue, the aspect of the work, right? And again, I'm just going to give you some examples for the unhoused population. Are you interested in like the unhoused population when it comes to foster youth aging out of the system? There's a huge issue with them being unhoused and that transition from being in the system to being on their own, especially for those who don't enter college, because a lot of aged out foster youth go to college as a way to have secure housing, right? So you still have to narrow down your issue. Okay, so we're clear on your three P's for the sake of this conversation. So once you get clarity, right? And again, it should take you about 30, 45 days to work through your clarity. Then from there, you should be able to at least start finding macro organizations that align with what you say you want to do, right? So clarity is the key piece for everything. And actually, I'm probably going to stop here and see what questions you have because we really can't talk anymore about like job searching and applying for the jobs until you're crystal clear about the work that you want to do, because that determines like what experience you highlight on your resume. But I'll give you some tips of like what you should be highlighting on your resume as far as experience to get these jobs. But what questions do you have?
Um, um, how to get, as you mentioned, clarity. I think that is something that I think I kind of have an idea um, of, like, but as you mentioned, specific detail of this population, so I know what kind of jobs to look for in relation to that. I think that's kind of maybe
Yeah. So
where
the
I'm at.
Yeah, so the clarity comes from, and those who are watching, there's like a little delay, but it's okay. The clarity for your third P comes by answering those prompts that I shared earlier. And it requires you to sit in a self-reflective place of really dissecting the conversations that you're having outside of work. What I know to be true, because it was true for me in my own career, and it's true for the 180 plus other social workers that I've helped, is that the thing that you talk about the most outside of work is what you're supposed to be doing as a macro social worker, right? So a lot of social workers find themselves going on rants and like raving nonstop about an issue. And you may not recognize that, but the people around you do. So another way, like when you were going through the self-reflective like process those prompts that I gave you earlier, is start asking the people around you, what do you talk about all of the time? And they will tell you. I just recently did this with the current cohort that I'm working with inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. One of my coaching clients, he asked his family. He already knew what his issue was, but we were really doing this to test their messaging around, do people know that you're passionate about this thing? And when he asked his family, what does he talk about all the time? They said weight loss. And that's what he's passionate about. He's passionate about making certain that people have the tools and resources they need to live healthy lives. And so when he asked his sisters and his mother and his father, they were like, all you talk about is weight loss, working out, eating healthy, right? The people around you will tell you. So I would encourage you to ask those people what you're talking about all of the time and really dissect the themes and what you're talking about, because there's something. Maybe you're talking about the rent is just too high in this city. Or maybe you're like, buying a home is just too expensive. Or why are the good homes on such and such side? Every little thing that you mention has a correlating root cause issue to it. They're not all one and the same. So, and this is for everyone that watches the live, watching the replay back. You can't say housing because that's too broad of an issue, because there's many little subparts to it.
Yeah.
It seems like your wheels may be turning. Did you think of an aspect in hearing that? Did you think of anything?
I did. I mean, as you were saying that and thinking about that, I do want to I do want to, follow that advice of asking friends and people around me, what do I talk about the most? Um, I think just as I mentioned recently, just trying to get into new hobbies and things I do in my free time. I know I talk about, I am, talking about more kind of healthy eating, more of baking or sharing that at work of like different, just side of like, oh yeah, I get to share this new thing that I created that is healthy and that is good for you, that I like, that I share. So I've recently been doing that. I'm not sure if that's what I talk about the most in general, but that's just something I know I've done recently and shared with my friends as well, and relating
Oh,
to like a little bit of traveling. I know and talked about that too.
Okay. And if you find that they repeat to you that it's something more, something over and beyond houselessness, then that also tells you that you're choosing houselessness because yes, you experienced it, but it may be more because you're thinking that because I did work in this in the past, I have to do it in my macro work. And I want to say to that you don't have to be married to what you did in the past to get a macro job. You can pivot to a completely unrelated population issue. If I heard you correctly, didn't you tell me you worked with the houseless population before?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you don't have to be married to that. You could pivot to something where you're doing work around ensuring that young girls have access to outdoor related experiences as a part of positive youth development, right? But you have to get clear on what is the thing that you're talking about all of the time. What are you really super, super, super passionate about? And then what is the desired outcome for that population that you're hoping to achieve with your work? So how I have people answer that question is if X population had XYZ intervention or prevention thing, what would be the outcome? What is the desired outcome you want for them? So for me, when you meet me, anywhere you meet me, I'm going to always be talking about a job. I could be in church and I want to be talking about jobs. I could be at the grocery store. I want to be talking about jobs. I could be on the phone with a best friend. I'm talking to her about getting a job. Right. And the reason being is because I know that when people who work low quality jobs have good paying, good quality jobs, that they're able to achieve lifelong self-sufficiency and that their life in every area improves. How do I know that? Because that was true for me. So that's why I'm on a mission to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to get good quality, good paying jobs so their whole life can improve. Every area, even their children. So think about what is that? Also the outcome that you're hoping to see for them, because that also dictates then how you will do your work. So for me, based on what I just shared with you, I know to do my work, that means I need to be talking or doing work that supports the creation of opportunities for them. I don't necessarily want to be on the side where they're where they are doing research on the topic. Research is great, but for my day-to-day work, I don't want to do research. I'm clear on the fact that I want to educate the masses, but I don't want to educate the people who need jobs. I want to educate the people with power and authority to create job opportunities. Employers, political leaders, other community leaders, they have the power and authority. Okay. So I'm going to stop there because clarity is the key to everything. It really truly is. Because once you get clear on that, you're then able to look at your work history from the past based on what you say you want to do going forward. And then you're able to discern, okay, out of all of the experiences that I've had as a case manager, this this experience from XYZ job is directly related to this. The biggest problem why people can't write their macro resume is because they don't have clarity. And because as case managers, you have to do everything under the sun. You're really doing a job of 10 people. You're doing 100 different duties. And so you have a hodgepodge of experience. You're like, well, out of all of this, what should I put on my resume? And the only way you figure that out is based off of the type of job you want, because you're not going to put all of the stuff. Because if you're talking about the houseless population, just as an example, having conducting biopsychosocial exams is not relevant if you're saying you want to create programs and initiatives and opportunities. right? So then you would have the experience where you were leading that program at one time on your resume, rather than the time you were working in the I'm just making this up, the clothing closet. They don't need to know that. They would need to know about the time where you managed the program and what that entailed and what were you doing in that role and who were you talking to and what were the outcomes of that work. So clarity really is the piece. You have to do that first. So I'm gonna stop here because at this point your wheels should be turning and your homework is going to be to talk to your people to see what they say you are super passionate about. But do you have any questions before we stop?
No, I think, you know, that was just my main question, just the clarity piece. I think that is something I do want to dive more deeper into to understand more of where I want to go. As you mentioned, to be able to write my resume and know what opportunities to look for.
I love it. Also, another thing that I would encourage you to do is once you get through the clarity piece, the second step would be to start going out and researching what national efforts out there exist around your issue. Right. So when you get the clarity piece and you're clear around this specific aspect of working with the houseless population, then you would need to go out and start researching. I call it doing mission fit alignment checks to find organizations that do the type of work that you say you want to do. So there's steps. So let me break down the steps. This is for everyone. The first step inside of my program is clarity. We do that for the first 30 to 45 days. Then the 45-day to 60-day mark is where we go and do what I call my mission fit alignment check process, where you go out and you find aligned organizations that touch the issue in the population that you say you want your work to support. That also includes the stakeholder groups that you say you want to talk to or work with to get this work done. The next step, the third step would be then you start looking at how do they do this work in specific jobs within those organizations. And what you're looking for are opportunities to strategically align what you identified in your second P for purpose, as far as how you said you want to do your day-to-day work, to match it up. Right. Notice the first step, we didn't go look at jobs first. We create the vision first, and then we go find the thing that matches it. So the third step is then you go look at their jobs and look at their scopes of work to see what here aligns with what I said I wanted to do in step one. So for me in my step one, I was very clear that I wanted to be as proximate to power as possible, and I wanted to educate the masses. That's how I wanted my day-to-day work to look. So when I started to research organizations as an example, in the third step, well, in the second step, then I looked at their job boards. That's when I saw these opportunities for me to speak to mayors and political leaders about creating career pathways and on-ramps for my population. Then the fourth step is once you find the jobs, then you start applying. And in the applying process and writing your resume, that's when you pull out what I call your higher level experiences. It's the experiences that you have that's over and beyond the standard case management stuff. So on your macro resume, you're not going to have manage the caseload. They don't care about that. For you with program manage, you love the program management piece. That means you want to be highlighting all of your times where you did programmatic related work. It could have been when you were a team lead, you still were doing program management as a team lead. You were ensuring that the team members were meeting the deliverables of the grants. You were checking files for them. You were serving as a subject matter expert for your team where they would come ask you questions. So even if you never technically was a program manager and you were a team lead, that's still program management related work, and you would highlight that. You will highlight your outcomes while you were in that role. You will talk about any time where you taught with high level leaders, where you engage with high level leaders, where you were everybody as a caseworker, case manager have been asked to go sit in for a supervisor on some type of meeting. What were those meetings about? What special panels were you on? Committees, review boards. You put those things in your resume. And so then once you apply, then you have to start at the same time. Actually, this is what I'm working with my coaching clients at the same time. While you're doing all of that, I'm also teaching my coaching clients the next step, which is you are amassing this knowledge about your population and issue, because your knowledge as a case manager is subjective. And on a macro level, they're looking for experts. And also as a case manager is really more passion fueled, right? Like it's more emotion based. Like, I'm tired of seeing such and such. But as a macro social worker, you have to lean more to your expertise. So also what I'm working with simultaneously with my coaching clients as I'm teaching them, taking them through all of those other steps, is how to go through the knowledge acquisition phase process of amassing the knowledge that you need around your population and issue, and the way you say you're going to do this work to brand yourself as an expert. So that means that you're consuming at high doses everything that you can around what's being done on the national level regarding this population. So we're going to stick with the foster youth just as an example. So if you decided that it's foster youth who are aging out of the system, who's not going into post-secondary education, and they're struggling with securing housing and they're becoming houseless, then you should know about all of the latest work regarding that issue. Who are the key other national organizations working to address that issue? What interventions and preventions are being created? What's the latest research? And you don't have to know this stuff like memorize, but you have to know how to at least access it and be able to speak to it. Right? And so when you go through that knowledge acquisition stage, that helps you master macro interviews. Because in macro interviews, they're not asking you questions about, so tell me about a time when you worked with some houseless people. That's not what they're going to be asking you. They're going to be like, Diana, we're facing a huge dilemma. Currently, we are trying to roll out this initiative to really address foster youth who are aging out of the system, who are still facing houselessness, largely because they haven't established credit and they are disengaged from the education system and the employment system. So they don't have a way to pay for housing, especially with the rising housing cost. Do you know of any organizations that help foster youth with securing housing, or maybe working with them to get employment? Yeah, Jim. Actually, I just read an article 3 days ago about such and such city, and I feel like they're doing the work really, really well, where they're partnering with the local community college and technical college to get foster youth short-term training credentials and job placement opportunities. And while the students are going through the program, they're also placing them in temporary housing until they become full-time employed and deemed self-sufficient. You have to be able to speak to what's going on. Those are the types of questions you get in macro interviews. And this is what I teach my coaching clients when I'm working with them on how to amass this knowledge. So it's not about tell me about a time when you dealt with an irate customer. So this is why I always talk about, and I don't know if people have heard me publicly talk about it, I always talking about the importance of ongoing professional development. And so at one point I was talking about it a lot. I think I need to start talking about it because then other like career coaches started talking about it. But when I talk about it, I'm talking about it to build your expertise. I'm not talking about getting a certification. I'm not talking about getting a degree. I'm talking about doing your knowledge acquisition. This is how you avoid becoming a dinosaur. So if you say that the how unhoused population and whatever specific issue you land on is your thing, 1 hour a day, Monday through Friday, you should be learning something new about work that's being done to support them. 1 hour a day, you should be learning something new. And then the next step after that, so you're learning this knowledge that helps you perform better in your interviews and master them. Then the next thing after that is you have to start strategically creating a career plan around what will be the actions you take to get the job that you say you want. Yes, be applying also at the same time, but maybe you realize that you have a skills gap. Maybe you realize that the jobs that you are looking at, a lot of them require you to have experience managing a certain amount of a budget. I'm just making this up. But you don't have any experience managing a budget. We're not going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to apply to that job even though those jobs even though I really love those jobs." No, you're going to strategically start finding a way to get that experience. So what that will look like is not going back to school. What it will look like is maybe at your current job, they have an opportunity for you to sit on an advisory committee where they talk about the annual budget. And your team, your supervisor's like, does anybody want to volunteer? Instead of you saying, no, I don't want to do it. Yes, I want to do it because you've already identified that that's a skills gap for you. And so that's how you can fill in those gaps of like, I need more experience without overextending yourself. And this is not just for Diana, this is for, because I see people on YouTube live, hey, how y'all doing? This is for everyone. This is the process, right? It's not a checklist, but it all starts from the clarity piece. It all builds off one another. Do you have any questions? I wanted to go through the steps with you so you knew what it was, or the process so you knew what that looked like.
I think you went through, each of the steps of what that takes to, looking at career clarity, what does it look like to actually finding your population with the knowledge in the interview process, and just ongoing professional development. I think that's a macro process of what it just takes to get a macro job and what that looks like, and at this time.
Okay, great. So did you have any other questions? I know you're probably like, oh my gosh, I still got a lot of work to do, but did you have any questions?
Um, no, not at this time. Yeah, I think just, gonna be doing a lot of self-reflection, going over the steps that you've talked about, and really think about what is next, for me to do, in my macro, career search.
Okay, I love it. So most definitely spend the next week or two and doing your clarity work and then revisit the process, but clarity is where you need to spend your time. And most definitely watch the replay back. I'll keep it on my YouTube channel to listen to those prompts that I gave you earlier and write them down. I always encourage that people get in the habit of writing this information down because what you initially said when I asked you that earlier will most likely change. As an example, it kind of changed even during our conversation because what you think of today will be something different than 3 days from now. You'll remember, oh, actually, when I was in my internship, I enjoyed doing such and such. And it's so, and I'm saying that because it's okay to change your
Mhm.
mind. Because what the truth is that a lot of people have abandoned what they really wanted to do for something that was safe. And so it's going to take you a few days to remember it now that you're in a place of really thinking about what is it that I want to do and what is it that I enjoy doing. So give yourself permission to dream. Also, I'm going to say this and I'll be done. What I see to be true also is that a lot of social workers, the thing that you got your undergraduate degree in is really what you want to do in your career now, but you just don't know how to make that happen. And like a lot of people have settled where they are now. So you might want to go back and look at whatever your bachelor's degree is in also. Just a little tip. All right. So thank you so much, Diana, for volunteering. I know we had a tech issue, but it's okay. People still heard what we had to say. For those who are listening, I sent out an email yesterday asking people to volunteer for free coaching, and Diana responded to this time slot. I'm gonna be back on at 9 p.m. Eastern time with two additional people. But if you found value in what we were sharing today, drop a comment, drop a reflection. If you worked through your 3 Ps as I was walking Diana through it, drop what you came up with. The more you think about it, the easier it becomes to identify it. And then also, Cohort 18 enrollment is open for the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. And if you want me to guide you through this process, because it is a process, I'm more than willing to talk with you about you possibly joining the accelerator because registration closes this Saturday. And the link to join Cohort 18 is down in the bio. You just need to schedule a free 15-minute get to know you chat with me to talk about what your career needs and goals are, and for me to determine if you are a good fit. All right, I'll be back in a few hours. Happy macro career planning. Bye. One moment, Diana.
All right.
One moment.